Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very special recommendation video for you. Basically, it's Pride Month and I was trying to think of what I wanted to do for a recommendation video this year. I've been doing a TikTok a day, mostly queer themed, and so I'm recommending a lot of books on my TikTok. So I was trying to think of something very special for my YouTube channel, and I definitely knew that I wanted to bring in a little bit of history. And so today I'm going to be using the original Pride flag as a way to recommend books using both the color and the meanings that the different stripes represent. So basically, prior to the gay rights activists in like the 60s and 70s, the main symbol for the LGBT community was the upside down pink triangle, which is connected to the Holocaust and the symbol that gay people were given in the same way that Jewish people were given the Star of David. So in the late 60s, 70s, when we started to see a lot of queer activism, I think the main person behind this change was Harvey Milk, and he was like, hey, we need a better symbol. We need something that, represents the joy of our community, not just a symbol of hardship and pain. So enter Gilbert Baker, who designed our first Pride flag. So the original flag had 8 stripes on it. It was pink, red, orange, yellow, green, turquoise, indigo, and then violet. And this flag was slowly simplified over the years to be the one that we now recognize as the primary gay flag. And since that point, we've seen this flag grow and change like our community, and we've seen the addition of different flags for different identities underneath the LGBTQ plus umbrella. I got all this information just looking online, and I'm going to leave a link to a video that I watched. I think it's a great video to get some more information, but that's mainly where I pulled most of my information from, was that video, so definitely check it out in the comments down below. But along with the color of each stripe also represents something, and I'm sure there was like a more in-depth explanation as to why each symbol was chosen. I've really done a little bit of digging and I couldn't find it. I'm sure it exists, but I was having trouble finding it. If you know why each symbol was picked, I would love to know. But basically, I'm going to be taking the color and the symbol and kind of interpreting it and choosing a book that I think represents each stripe on the Pride flag. So starting off with our first color, we have hot pink. And the hot pink is one of the colors that was taken out of the flag eventually when it was simplified to our more standard rainbow. But the hot pink stripe symbolized sex. And so for this stripe, I chose the Stonewall Reader. This is a nonfiction book. It's technically like one of those Penguin classics, and it discusses activism leading up to the Stonewall riots as well as the Stonewall riots themselves and afterward. So this is like a great primer to the Stonewall riots if you don't know a lot about queer history. It's basically a compiling of a lot of different texts and accounts. I personally read this as an audiobook, which I think is a great source because it has some original recordings. My favorite recording was a original recording of Marsha P. Johnson. So this is like a great source for getting some firsthand accounts as well as some texts of queer history and queer activism. And I chose it for the hot pink stripe because I think this is what this book represents. Queer activists have always been fighting for our rights to exist, for our rights to have relationships with who we want, to be intimate with who we want, and I feel like this book represents that really well. And I thought this was also a great pick because, again, the pink stripe is one of these stripes that had to leave us when we simplified the flag, and our history, it's always with us, it's always a part of us, but it might change and grow. So I thought this was a great pick for that. Going into the red stripe, the red stripe symbolizes life. So I was thinking a lot about like the privilege, the act of getting to be alive, to experiencing life, also just like vitality. And so for this color, I picked Real Queer America by Samantha Allen, which is a memoir about Samantha traveling to different queer pockets in red states. Queer community is in a lot of places, but we kind of think of it as very specific places where there are a lot of queer folks, but we exist throughout, and there are these pockets of queer communities in even red states. And so I thought this was a really good pick for the red stripe. I feel like this book just really captures the symbolism of life, from living in community, from just surviving, but also like the pure joy of like, we are existing, we are here. This is what that book represents, and I feel like it captures the red stripe perfectly. Getting into the next stripes, we are entering into fiction. The orange stripe represents healing, and so for this book I picked Ophelia After All. This is a young adult contemporary novel by Raquel Marie, and this is a story about a boy crazy girl who is falling in love with a girl for the first time, and kind of the tumultuous relationship that she sets herself into between her friends. And what I really loved about this book is that it's not a love story, it's really a coming of age story. It's really about Ophelia discovering herself, and I feel like this book just really captures that idea of healing, because for me, healing is not just like comfort, but it's also like getting better, about personal growth, and I feel like this book is really about that. So this was a really great read for this year, and I think it's a really great pick for the orange stripe. The next stripe we have is yellow, which is Sunlight, and for this I picked a little bit of an off yellow book, but I have Juliet Takes a Breath, which is like a hot neon yellow green type color. But when I'm thinking sunshine, I'm thinking being out in the daylight, I'm thinking taking a fresh breath of air, and that's what Juliet Takes a Breath represents. It's another coming of age YA contemporary story about a girl who is becoming an intern for a woman that she has idolized, her queer icon, and things are just not going as planned. This book was a breath of fresh air, so I just feel like it's perfect capturing that kind of like sunlight vibe. It's about Juliet coming into her own, but it's also about intersectional feminism, and it's honestly kind of a must read. Definitely recommend this, and I feel like it definitely captures sunlight. The next stripe on the flag is green, which represents nature, and for this I picked A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, which is just a naturey book. This is a hope punk sci-fi distant future type book where basically Earth has, I wouldn't say regressed. They're like technologically advanced, but they're also like smaller, more intimate communities, more eco-based future. And basically half of the planet is split between humans and the robots where the humans are not supposed to enter. Robots have not been seen by human eyes in a very long time, but our main character, who is a monk, travels around in the border area, which is very forested, basically going to these small communities and giving therapy sessions through cups of tea and comfort. And on their travels, they meet a robot, which is, again, a thing that has not happened for humans in a really long time. This book represents growth, healing. It has a lot of the things that we've seen in the last two books, but I feel like it really captures that essence of nature, interacting with nature. There's kind of like an overgrownness to this story. It's an excellent novella. It's a 2-book series, but I highly recommend this. Going on to Turquoise, another of the flag colors that has since been taken off the gay pride flag. Turquoise represents magic and art, so I was kind of thinking of the magic of art, and so for this book I picked up Radio Silence, which is about 2 British teens, another coming of age story. It's my favorite genre, but our main character is obsessed with this, I think it's a YouTube podcast kind of situation, and this boy that she's interacting with and becoming friends with happens to be the creator of said podcast. So it's a lot about creating, a lot about art and being in the spotlight when you don't necessarily want. It's coming of age, but it's also very like slice of life, just very like watching these 2 kids become friends, become almost like platonic soulmates, and like the struggles they face. It's really, really excellent. My favorite Alice Oseman work, and I feel like it really, really captures the magic of art, the magic of creation. Our next color is indigo or blue, which represents serenity, and for this book I picked Light from Uncommon Stars, which is an adult sci-fi fantasy novel. This book has a lot of hardships. It's about a trans violinist and her violinist coach who has been making deals with the devil, and it's also about a refugee family who are space aliens. So there's a lot of hardship that our main character Katrina is facing, and a lot of hardship that the other characters are facing. Like, I don't want to downplay that. There are scenes of like transphobia, body dysmorphia, internalized homophobia, but there are also so many moments of found family and just Katrina being cared for and loved, and our other 2 characters finding a romantic relationship with each other. There's something very sweet and lovely and slice of lifey about a lot of this book, despite it having like a very, what you would think would be a very sci-fi heavy plot. I love this. I highly recommend the audiobook. It really captures the poetic prose of this novel. This is a great read, and I do think that those moments of hope and loveliness really capture serenity and peace, especially the peace that we find in relationships and in community. And for our final color, violet, we have Spirit, and for this I picked Pet by Kweke Emezi, which is a young adult novella about a distant future where it's kind of a utopian. Monsters and like bad things don't exist anymore in this world, except Jam brings in a monster from another world, and this monster is a good monster. They're there to fight the bad monsters that are not supposed to exist in this world anymore. This is just such a unique novel. I was trying to think of a book that really captured the soul of something, and Jam is such a fun character. She is so spirited, but also this book has Jam having beautiful friendships, and also we get to see beautiful relationships between older members in Jam's life. This book has really strong elements of family and friendship, and I feel like that just really represents spirit so well. And this is another book that I think more people need to read, more people need to talk about. It's definitely a great book. It's perfect for fans of sci-fi fantasy, for speculative fiction, but it's got those contemporary elements as well. It works so well. Okay, but those are all the books that I picked out in connection to the original Pride flag. And let's look at the stack, because oh my gosh, I've been wanting to show this off because I just love how beautiful it looks. Light from Uncommon Stars is unfortunately a very like teal spine as opposed to its blue cover, but overall this is such a beautiful stack of books, and honestly these are all really great reads. I highly recommend. And I would also love to know what your favorite color is and a book you would recommend for that color. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recommendation video. I can't stop looking at it. It's so pretty. Anyway, it makes me happy. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.